Afternoon, I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show. It comes your way every weekday afternoon at 4 p.m. Steelers versus Cowboys Sunday night at Acrisure Stadium. And I'm going to be honest with you here. I'm looking for something more than just 4-1. Not that I'm taking 4-1 for granted. Not that I'm predicting anything or whatever. But the Steelers just kind of squeaking past Dallas and struggling and taking lots of penalties and coming out slow and all that other stuff isn't going to have the same feel for me. What you want to see is what you've needed to see all along. And hear me out on this, because I'm thinking about something that's all the way ahead to Christmas time. The Steelers have a stretch from December 15 to actual Christmas, December 25, 11 days in which they play 3 games against the Eagles. That's out on the wrong end of the Commonwealth. Against the Ravens in Baltimore. And then back here, right after Santa gets done, against Patrick Mahomes. That's a gauntlet. And what you need to do as a football team, not that you're plotting for the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs, all of the focus is on that week's opponent or whatever. They can't talk about this stuff, but we can. What you have to do is raise the floor of your team. You have to keep getting better in all facets so that you're not limping along. You're not just making your way through games, kind of like the 11-0 start in 2020, where you just looked every week and you just said, how is this team 11-0? Well, that's not going to be good enough. It might get you into the playoffs. It also might get you another 30-point loss in the playoffs. You need to keep getting a little bit better. Justin Fields needs to keep being allowed to, attack a little bit more aggressively, especially on first downs. The running game needs to be a lot more than what it was in Indianapolis, a lot more than it's been with just Najee Harris. Offensive line needs to solidify. You need to get the tight ends more involved. Somebody as a wide receiver, other than George Pickens, needs to catch the ball, or you got to bring one in from somewhere. Go get Devontae Adams. Defensively, everything just needs to solidify, but that'll also include Cam Sutton coming back and knocking Beanie Bishop off the field at nickel corner. You get the idea. You want to get better. You want to keep building some kind of momentum. You want to build some confidence. You want to build that trust in each other that's just got to be there for the team to, when they get to these 3 games that I'm talking about, be one of those teams. Be one of those teams. It's funny. I remember the reaction locally whenever the NFL schedule came out. And I don't mean the list of opponents. I'm talking about the actual schedule when you saw this stretch, and you also saw that all of the games inside the AFC North happen in the second half. And everybody immediately said, well, that's it. Here it comes. First losing season. You can forget about any sort of contention and whatever else here. And then the next thing you know, as we're sitting here right now, the rest of the AFC North is 4-8, and only the Ravens are at 500. In fact, the Browns and the Bengals look pretty bad. Now, I don't know that that's going to continue either, but geez. And it works in the other direction, too. You looked at that second half and you said, the only cakewalk you've got is, the Commanders. Well, Washington's off to a 3-1 start, have a dynamic quarterback. So just build your own best self up. Do that and get that started Sunday night. Doesn't have to be spectacular. It doesn't have to be 45-10 or something insane like that. Just keep improving. Keep building that floor.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
joined now by Chris Halleck. And Chris, I can pretend that there are other issues that are comparable to what the Steelers face on their offensive line, but that's what it would be. It would be pretending.
There are definitely a lot of issues there, and health being the biggest one, but yep. I mean, as Arthur Smith said Thursday, nobody cares. No, nobody cares.
Yeah, they really don't. They really don't. And that's something I don't know that Smith would have gotten that from his time as head coach in Atlanta or just from being around Mike Tomlin, because Tomlin does that all the time. Someone's hurt, he expresses like this much regret, and then it's like, move on. There's just nothing that can be done about it. And that's doubly true of guys who are out for the entire season, the way Nate Herbig, Troy Fautanu, and now James Daniels, all three of them are. Those were the three guys, center, right guard, right tackle, who were the main guys, the starter guys throughout the preseason. And boom, they're all gone.
It's a significant loss. As I've been, going through preparation for this game coming up and looking at the Cowboys side of things and the injuries that they're dealing with, it's like, well, I guess the Steelers are finally facing a team that's dealing with the same kind of attrition, because like the Cowboys are dealing with a lot of theirs. I mean, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence,
they're injured. Just like it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's like this long.
And it's not just long, like significant players. I mean, we're talking, but definitely on the Steelers side of things, that offensive line. Yeah, I mean, Zach Frazier stepped in. He's done a good job, a really good job at center. Right guard is still to be determined with Spencer Anderson and Mason McCormick now. Broderick Jones kind of looking like the raw player that we kind of expected him to be. There are some times where times where he's like mauling guys, and it's like, okay, there's the dude. And then there's some times where it's like, okay, yeah, he's still got some growing up to do. So yeah, there's definitely still some issues that have to be worked out.
Well, on the bright side, you do have, you have Dan Moore playing pretty well.
That's good development.
Funny how nobody talks about Moore whenever he's playing well, but he's playing well. And then you have Isaac Seumalo returning this weekend. Isaac spoke today over on the South Side about getting these young guys together. And Isaac, as ever, really, really straightforward.
I think they've been playing, it's always ups and downs, but overall. And I knew that, when they came in, and even Spence from last year, all talented, really good players. Kudos to the coaches as well, putting guys in really good positions. I'm really, really thankful for the defense we have, keeping the game always manageable, and, they always usually step up when we need them.
Now, only Isaac would begin his assessment by saying, yeah, these guys are coming along, and then end it with, but thank goodness our defense is keeping us in games. I mean, geez, dude, tell it like it is, right? But it's accurate. It's accurate. The offensive line could have been exposed in so many worse ways, not least of which is in the win-loss column. But they've had an opportunity here to grow as much as the injuries will allow them. The thing that I wonder about, and that includes heading into this game on Sunday, is there a way for Arthur Smith specifically to put into play schematics or challenges that are so much simpler than what I know and he wants to put in? He wants all kinds of elaborate zone blocking and all kinds of movement and special technique and everything else. He can't do that right now.
I have, again, just looking into the numbers and looking into the data, the Steelers are most efficient this season at running inside zone. Now, inside zone is not nearly as complicated or as difficult to pull off as outside zone, wide zone, or any of those where you have to move laterally.
Right.
Inside zone it's still a zone scheme, but it's not nearly. It is kind of more beat the guy across from you to a certain extent. And so it just so happens that the Cowboys aren't very good at defending inside zone. So I'm like,
they're not very good at defending
True.
anything, though. I mean, but yeah.
So
I know
I'm like,
saying.
okay, this is where the Steelers are most efficient this year. Oh, by the way, Najee Harris, too. Even with the little bit of yards per carry that he has right now, he's actually most efficient at running inside zone. Actually pretty efficient. Like, I think like 4.5 yards to carry, something like that. So it's like, okay, there's your answer maybe. If you're going to try to pull off some sort of schematic advantage for how you can get the running game going this week, maybe you just do a little bit more inside zone this week than you normally would.
What about from the pass blocking component? I mean, they haven't been particularly great at this. There have been some teams that have just, I don't want to say leveled them, but certainly got through them. You saw the Colts scheme in Indianapolis where they just brought a lot of different bodies and they had them in a lot of different spots and they went unmarked. They really did for the entirety of the first half and part of the second half.
The one thing that I would try to do, if you're trying to think of actual strategy when you're going into how you're going to be in pass protection, try to get the rushers to go past Justin Fields, especially the edge. It's scary
stuff, man. There's a cringe. You're asking everybody to overrun literally in this case overrun your quarterback. Go past him.
But what can happen whenever that happens? Those guys go past him. Now Justin can step up, go to one side, go to the other side. It opens things up for him to not just have to worry about. I mean, shoot, look at the biggest plays he made last week. It was whenever.
Yeah, you're right. I know exactly the one. I actually referenced it in the opening segment where he stepped forward, burst out of the pack, went to his left, and then threw back across his body. It was exactly that type of scenario.
Because that's the one thing when we're talking about edge rushers having to contain quarterbacks that can get outside the pocket, or not just get outside the pocket, but be able to kill them with your legs. Specifically, Lamar Jackson and the Cowboys have already had to deal with that this year. If those edge rushers get past Justin Fields, that opens things up for him to be able to use his legs. And so if you're looking at ways for this offense to get chunks, then maybe, Pat Meyer and Arthur Smith and all those guys are telling the tackles, it's okay if they go way past because then Justin can get outside and just run.
Yeah, man, I feel so much better with something that's just, here's this guy, here's that guy, stop him, But I also understand that the scheme is the scheme, and I further appreciate that the members of this offensive line, they've got some brains in addition to the brawn. I think we've seen some of that, played out with some of these guys. Spencer Anderson has shown that he's able to, to understand and grasp where he's supposed to be and how to adjust. Zach Frazier's been off the charts in this regard. And Mason McCormick, although he's got kind of that junkyard dog reputation more than anything else, that he's going to go out there and scrap and fight and everything, he's also been solid in this area. I honestly, Chris, there's a part of me that would take an L, like a literal L to the Cowboys, if the offensive line just got it all together and just built itself up, because you would now have something for the rest of the season.
Right.
I'm being overly dramatic here, but that's actually, it's that
it
important.
Definitely is, because at the end of the day, this is never going to be an offense that just says, you know what, Justin, you're going to air it out every single week. Like okay, let's just
go get us 45 points.
Let's just say, hypothetically, the Steelers do acquire Devontae Adams. They're still not going to become that type of an offense.
Nope.
All it's going to do is just have to force defenses to not stack the box, because then you are susceptible to both George Pickens and Devontae Adams. But that doesn't mean that they're going to become this pass-heavy offense where Justin Fields is going to be throwing 45 times a game. It's just not going to happen. So you have to find a way to run the football, and this is the perfect week to do it. The Cowboys don't have Micah Parsons. They don't have DeMarcus Lawrence. They're banged up. They're beaten up. They're missing. Those are two massive blows. That's
in all the secondary,
and so you're talking. That is literally the equivalent of missing for the Steelers TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. Imagine the Steelers defense without both of those guys. It would be very, very brutal. This is the perfect time for this offensive line to get together.
Right. Get it together in the both the literal and the symbolic sense. Just get it together. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Welcome back. Time for J1Q, and today's comes from Devin Engel out in Anaheim, California.
Hey DK, this is Devin calling in from Orange County, California. Loving the new Double Shot show. Keep it up. My question is, in Chicago, we saw Justin Fields have a lot of high-level games that got capped off by a costly fourth quarter error. I think we saw another one of those on Sunday versus Indy with the botched silent count. So, what I'm asking is, how long past this year do you give Justin Fields to grow out of that? Love the show. Keep it up. Go Steelers.
You know, Devin, I know what you're saying. When you think about Fields' history, especially with the Bears, you think about the big mistake. But, you know, as I was saying earlier, at some point you need to do this, not just as a football team, but also with your most important position. Because you're not going to be afforded the kind of scenario you're describing there, Devin. You're not going to have the quarterback be able to be seen through some sort of lens or prism that's 3-4 years out. You're going to have to make a decision on signing him to a contract, maybe even in season. You can't risk losing him if he ends up being this good all year long. I'd like to see the Steelers just not worry about it so much. You know, I can appreciate what they did with him in training camp. I can appreciate the work that Tom Arthur Smith, Mike Tomlin, everybody has done with him. I can appreciate that. You want to make sure that you eliminate that component that had defined Fields' career to this point. Fair or not, he needed to be that guy, but he also needed to not be Kenny Pickett being told to throw the ball 20 rows into the stands when he didn't like what he saw. Fields is still taking some gambles. He's still, that throw that he made in the second half when he went to his left, broke out of a pack. I mean, it was just an amazing show of athleticism, and then threw back against his body to the middle of the field. And that's just great, great football. And you don't want to take that away from him. You don't want him going out there thinking, oh no, what do I do next? What if I mess up? Can't. You'll be stripping him of exactly what brought those 3 touchdowns in the second half. You want to constantly challenge Fields' ceiling. And the sooner you do that, within reason, within context, the sooner you'll have, I guess, the answer that you're looking for, Devin, which, even though you didn't say this explicitly, whether or not you want to sign him, whether or not you want him to be your guy for the long-term future. You're not going to know that unless you let him play some football. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody checking out the new Double Shot show all week long. And we'll be back with another one Monday, maybe talking about not just 4-1, but also some significant overall improvement.